but I've never seen stuff the scale of this. There's a New Mexico to Arizona transmission line that's a couple of $1 billion, and it's 520 miles long.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then just to top that, there's another one called like the Trans-West Express transmission line going from Wyoming to Nevada. It's a couple of $1 billion. That is 730 miles long. And then
these overhead or buried?
Yeah, overhead. Yeah. No, you couldn't bury that. Yeah, you'd far out. You'd be digging. Yeah. No, overhead. And then there's another one called Gateway West transmission line from Wyoming to Idaho. A couple of billion. It's 1,150 miles long. 1,150 miles long.
Welcome back to the Offside Podcast.
That was more like an American pretending to have an English accent than the other way around.
Shit. I'm going to regret that. Right. In a recent episode, we covered a topic which is going through a bit of a shift in infrastructure spend from transportation to renewables, kind of focused on Europe and Australia. And also a bit of a sort of a massive investment in the private sector in areas like data centers. So on that theme, there's obviously an enormous amount of spend over in the US, something that we didn't cover within that episode. So we thought that might be worth digging into a little bit because I know when I was about to say, I remember when I was on the tools. I wasn't on the tools. When I was in construction, we didn't know you've been in sales.
You've been in sales too long when you can just seamlessly transition into a lie about some story that you. I did exactly 100%. That in the past. You should buy this.
This is too niche for you, but that just reminded me of Keir Starmer, which makes me die inside. But anyway, yeah, back on when I was on projects, for sure, we didn't really have any knowledge of the mega projects happening in America. Like you see the odd piece of content on the B1M or something. But yeah, I think it's quite an interesting space to drop into. And to give a bit of context around the size of the industry over there, and we love some awesome facts that we
one of us definitely does.
Yeah. So the construction market's about 1.5 trillion over there a year. So obviously substantial.
What number do you have?
1.5 trillion.
Oh, I got 1.9 in my research. Yeah, 1.9. We must
maybe I had like
different sources.
Last year's and yours is this year.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Anyway,
mine was 2023.
They're the type of facts we have here.
Yeah.
1.5 to 1.9 trillion a year.
Give or
about
take
400
25%.
billion. Yeah. About 400 billion seems to be infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And 100 billion of that alone on transportation. One
HS2.
Crazy stat was that yeah.
We could just measure it in HS2s.
Yeah, they're spending half an HS2 on broadband internet alone. That's crazy. 65 billion on broadband.
Given what it takes to get you to dial into a podcast, I think the UK could do with a half a HS2 on some broadband.
Yeah, we do for sure. But it makes you wonder about things like Starlink and whether it's worth putting in 65 billion of broadband internet. But anyway, obviously mega stuff. Another crazy stat, that's like Australia spending $60,000 per head on construction. Another useless but interesting factor.
Is that a lot?
So
it feels like a lot.
That is a lot of money, yeah.
Okay.
With Trump coming in, big claim there. With Trump potentially probably coming in, it's likely these numbers will actually increase. He's quite an advocate for.
I heard one project in particular, a big fence.
Yeah. I forgot about that one.
There's a big fence. There's a big signage job. They've got to go and put new signs up on the buildings to say Trump, and then there's a big factory making red hats.
Yeah. Someone actually sent a picture to us wearing an Apex t-shirt and a Make America Great Again hat at the same time.
We were looking for something to put on the website, so that would be if we've got that handy, that would be great.
Yeah, he probably would be up for that. So anyway, huge amount of money being spent across the board. Obviously, we have the natural concentration of spend and projects across things like California, New York, Texas, sort of hubs. There's some pretty large notable projects in there. So not small.
Not small indeed. When in my here's a few of my own stats right back at you.
Yeah.
I was like, all the numbers are so big. Even if you try and measure it, like if you measure it in dollars, it's lots of cabbage. And if you try to measure it in like another unit like HS2s, it's still like a lot of HS2s. And so I started thinking about, okay, how big is it really in like relation to other parts of the world? And that really like blew my mind. So yeah, even if we take the 1.5 or the 1.9 trillion, that is 10 times the size of the Australian market, which is about 160 billion. And it's about 5 times the size of the UK in terms of spend, which I think was showing it like 300 billion. Even that number seems suspect to me in terms of size. I don't know if you had a UK market size. In the mid 300s for both France and the UK.
Yeah.
An all-in construction.
Is the UK market size, but
I would believe that more. But yeah, so that's somewhere close to like, 10. Is that in pounds, by the way?
Dollars.
Yeah, so that's like 10 times the size of the UK. Is what's crazy is if you look at that in relation to other parts of the world, global construction spends like 15 trillion. I won't even try and translate that to just twos. That's a lot. Which puts it at like US at like 12% roughly.
Yeah.
You get like France, UK 2% or something each. China, and I've looked this up like 5 different ways, was like 4.8 or 4.7 trillion, which is 30% of all infrastructure.
Wow.
And so I knew that they did a lot of stuff, but that blew my mind at how massive the infrastructure spend or construction spend was in China. So that puts it at like, double and a bit US.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's obviously China's a different beast. It's significant spend, but the thing that struck me was if you actually look into some of the notable projects, they seem quite good value. So like they're building a new subway in New York, 6 billion. You can't build a tube in London for anywhere near 6 billion. They're building high-speed rail across California, 100 billion. Given the size of it, doesn't seem like crazy. Texas high-speed rail, 20 billion. You've got the Hudson River project. They don't seem like crazy numbers. So they're spending a lot, but they're also delivering quite a sizable amount. It's not like they're just getting crazy numbers, which is also quite impressive considering how much they're trying to do sort of in-house or onshore. So they're trying to actually manufacture and produce materials and do everything to avoid having to import as much as possible. So to have relatively sort of, I don't want to say low cost, but what seems like good value schemes and to be doing it in-house is quite impressive.
Yeah, I think especially compared to like UK, which is like it seems to be the most expensive way to build it, almost anything. And I don't know whether it's like, I think it's like a combination of things there. There's like a lot of emphasis on design, the architectural, like if you try and build, like if we think about Crossrail, it's interesting to think about what drives the cost and why it is so different and what it would look like if, say, the UK, even Oz has some projects that the spending is, it doesn't seem, I agree with you. It seems like it's good value. In terms of the contractors that operate in the UK, again, it's interesting in the US, it's interesting to see the size of some of those. And it's like I would say it's a fairly dynamic and competitive market. If you look at, say, the list of the top, 20 contractors, it's not like there's like 3 big ones that have all the work. You've got like 10 odd contractors that are pushing up near the 10 billion a year in construction volume. Yeah, I guess it's something that you don't see in every market compared against the UK, Australia, where the number of competitors are lower, which could also be linked to the cost if the competition to bid is lower.
Yeah, it's interesting with the size of construction. So the biggest contractor in the US does like $17 billion, which is, I don't know what the exchange rate is, but let's say 15 billion pounds. Balfour Beatty does 10 billion, and for a British company in a much smaller country, that's quite interesting. So
it's definitely like a much
competition.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a lot more.
No one's
competition.
Dominating.
Yeah, and like if you take like European contractors, like Grupo ACS, which is I think one of the largest in the world, who own contractors around. They own Dragados, I think. They own in Australia that I think they end up ultimately owning CIMIC and CPB. They do in construction a year, they do 33 billion euros
Right.
through group
Okay. Yeah.
companies.
Quite substantial. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Vinci, I think it does 40 billion.
Yeah, through
So there's
7,000 subsidiaries.
yeah, like if you look across Europe, there's like one contractor in each country completely
Yep.
dominating.
So other than the projects you're hopeful for when your candidate Trump wins, what were the projects that you were excited that you thought were interesting to when you were hunting through the US?
Yeah, so the one that does look really cool is the new tunnel under the Hudson River. So there's this big, they call it the Gateway Scheme, and it's basically this sort of collection of infrastructure projects in the northeast. And the most sort of publicly shouted about is it's a tunnel under the Hudson on the west side of New York. So that looks really cool. There's already, I know Mace already involved in that project, who are leading the sort of planning function for the client. I think it's almost underway. So yeah, if you were a junior QS or engineer, I think that would be dream project. A tunnel to New York City, that would be really cool. But it is part of a much broader scheme called the Gateway Project.
Yep.
The other thing is there's just to touch on sort of resin commercial around the Hudson River. They're building a 25 billion residential commercial. That's a serious amount of cash.
Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah, lots of apartments being built around what I think is the opening to the Hudson River on the western side. So yeah, they're doing a big focus on high-speed rail. So I mentioned a couple earlier, predominantly Texas and California. Yeah, high-speed rail seems to feature quite heavily. Yeah, so from an infrastructure point of view, some pretty major stuff. It seems like, and this is me scanning sort of news articles and things like that, they're trying to drive people away from driving because the roads are too congested. So at the moment, a lot of people fly or drive by default. Train isn't exactly the most sort of popular and not the most popular option. So they're trying to really level up their high-speed rail network to get people off the roads.
Yeah, it's interesting that you were saying that like it's starting soon, the tunnel job. I think it was only like a year or two ago, as part of the Infrastructure Jobs Act that Biden brought in the US, that it was like given the go ahead. And so for it to turn around and go into delivery that quickly it's flagged. You probably saw as well. It's like flagged as like the most urgent project in North America or something. And it's hard to imagine the scale of it. It says it's supposed to generate 72,000 direct and indirect jobs.
Whoa.
And sometimes I talk about, whenever we onboard someone into the team, I talk about like how construction's delivered and how projects operate, and these like projects are their own little business almost. I talk about this idea that like construction contractors are sometimes this like thin layer of management over the top of all of these projects, and that the project director and the management team are kind of like they're running a business. And when it's a mega project like this, they end up going really quickly to becoming like one of the most important businesses in a state or a city, this because of the size of it. If you suddenly turn up in an employer of 72,000 people, all of a sudden over like a period of like a few months, you've gone from nothing to one of the most important employers in a region. And then like as soon as the job finishes, it all disbands and disappears. It's like just an interesting odd paradigm that happens in construction, that these project teams that have probably never worked together before come together to deliver this project and become one of the most, like a major contributor to how a city or a region operates and like an employer. And then fast forward a year or 2 years or 5 years or something, and then it's like disappeared. And it was like it was never there.
It's interesting because a project like that really can not just boost the local economy, because you would expect something that big. The government put in some fairly strict rules to make sure that you're investing in the right supply chain that brings cash into the area and everything's not just sort of
maybe not. Maybe that's why it's so much cheaper there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the reason. Yeah. Maybe that's part of the reason it's so expensive.
Yeah.
In other places.
But like 70,000 people, you could really change your local economy from a project like that. I know obviously the Hudson River example is New York. It's not exactly like a poor economy, but it's allowing more people to work in the city and commute into the city.
Yeah. The other thing that is crazy when you look at some of the projects over there is transmission lines. Like we're working with a bunch of transmission line projects here around, Oz and UK, but I've never seen stuff the scale of this. So a couple of examples. There's a New Mexico to Arizona transmission line that's a couple of $1 billion, and it's 520 miles long.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And then just to top that, there's another one called like the Transwest Express transmission line going from Wyoming to Nevada. It's a couple of $1 billion. That is 730 miles long. And then
these overhead or buried?
Yeah, overhead. Yeah. No, you couldn't bury that. Yeah, you'd far out. You'd be digging. Yeah. No, overhead. And then there's another one called Gateway West transmission line from Wyoming to Idaho. A couple of $1 billion. It's 1,150 miles long. 1,150 miles long. And I'm going to go and just triple check that right now that you've called me out on it, but I'm almost certain that that's correct.
Yeah, serious stuff.
The size of the projects are crazy. Yeah, it's 1,000 plus miles long.
Yeah,
that's a long way, man. That's a long way.
Yeah, that's a very long way.
If you left London and drove 1,000 miles, where would you end up?
That's a horrible question. I'm going to say northern Spain. I fact check me on that.
I reckon you're getting further than that. I reckon you're getting to like Gibraltar.
You reckon further?
Yeah.
England to, let's say, Bilbao, straight line distance.
It's miles, remember, not kilometers.
Oh, fuck. yeah, that's 1,000 kilometers. Shit, you're getting to like southern Spain.
You're getting to Gibraltar.
Yeah, you are.
Do it. If I've nailed that,
I think you might actually. I reckon you are. I'm going to be really annoyed about you. I can't spell Gibraltar now. 1,092 miles.
Yes. Look at that.
No way.
Might not be. Oh, there you go, Mum. You said I'd never be good at anything. Guessing distances.
That's impressive.
I know.
So
let's not do that ever again. Now that I'm like 1 from 1.
Yeah. Quick while you're ahead. If you actually look at construction spending in general, so I just pulled this sort of G7 countries. Sorry, I didn't include Australia. Just looking at
most people don't.
Yeah, annual spend against population. United States are kind of mid-table. Oddly, Canada's spending the most per head, 225 billion, 39 million in population. Kind of makes sense given how sparse it is. But they've got some pretty massive projects at the moment, like the new metro is going into Toronto. But the UK is actually bottom of the list. So we spend the least per head, and we're famously poor value schemes, which means we're spending lots of money on not that much in the grand scheme of things. So that was a bit of a worrying stat there.
Yeah, right.
Half the amount per head is Canada, France, and Germany. So
really?
Yeah.
And all of it in London.
And pretty much all of it in London, yeah. London or Manchester gets like the majority of it. So
let's say you're a young QS, you've got a full head of hair, you've just graduated, you've got the chance to go and work in the UK, Australia, and the US, and you could go anywhere in those countries. Where do you go?
I've seen way too many videos of snakes and spiders to go anywhere near Australia, so I think I'm going to go west. I think Toronto Metro would be a cool one. A lot of people enjoy, traveling through Canada at the moment. I think Hudson would be the coolest, the Hudson River Project. And you could if you're a QS, you could probably live in Manhattan. If you're an engineer, you might have to go to Jersey, but I think one of those two would be quite cool. What would you go for?
I'd go to one of these 1,000 kilometer. No, I wouldn't do the 1,000 mile transmission lines.
I'm imagining like a giant cable drum with
it'd be a
miles of cable on it.
Of those. Yeah, there'd be a few of those. There's a couple of interesting projects like that. That sphere in the like sphere with all the on the outside. We're building one in Vegas.
Is it the one in New York they're building?
I think there's definitely one there's one already done somewhere. I think LA. Don't quote me. But then I'm pretty sure they're building one in Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas one's done.
Okay, well then I've got it back to front, so maybe it is New York.
Yeah, I think it is New York. They tried to London, and the mayor of London told them to piss off. But I'm pretty sure it's New York.
Okay, yeah, I probably couldn't pass up. Yeah, like a Toronto metro as well. Toronto seems like a really cool. It'd be freezing cold, but it's about the same as, I guess, about the same as London or colder.
Is London freezing?
It is compared to here.
Let's see. Weather in Toronto. I'm just double checking this. Oh yeah, it's about the same.
There we go.
Smart.
Double. 2 from 2. I nailed it. Yeah, I think so. I think that's the project to go to. The tunnel's good, but tunnels are dirty. Not in like it's a lot of moving dirt and then muck and
Yeah, totally. But I think working on stations, to be in the city, in the thick of it, definitely exciting. Yeah, we both did it. Stations and Crossrail, it was great. I did do a year in the tunnels, not so great. I say in the tunnels like I was in there with a spade, but yeah, the scope was in the tunnels.
Yeah, the way that projects are delivered there, it's really interesting. If you talk to certain people, they're like, it's wildly different, and then other people talk about it as like almost very similar to how everyone else delivers projects. Maybe there's different terminology. I think when we were talking to Richie the other day from Vaya, he was saying it's like the same with all the projects that they work with. So I think it would be an interesting experience if I was a QS. Do they even need QSs, or they can do math without them?
I actually know a QS who went over and did a couple of years for Skanska. He said it's a little different. It sounds more like Australia. So the engineers do a bit of the cost side, but they do have QSs, but they're more sort of commercial managers overseeing contract rather than sort of subcontractor payments and things like that.
Yeah, so it does start to paint the picture like the UK is kind of like on its own in the way it does that. And that could start to paint a picture of why it's so poor value for money.
Great
we'll
value.
Just leave that. Yeah, we'll leave that thought with folks.
Arguably, it's
the QS capital of the world. And you start to wonder, why are projects so expensive to deliver?
Yeah, because they work for the contractor and they're pumping up the price. Yeah. Anyway, right, we're gonna have to wrap up there. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening as always. We are actually going to be sharing a survey, so we'd love your view on what future topics could look like. So please do get involved. Let us know what you'd like to hear about, whether it's a conversation between myself and Jason, or particular sort of guests or areas that we'd like to have guests talk about in. So yeah, we'd love to know what you'd like to hear, and please do pass any feedback.
The more people that give feedback, the better. Otherwise, it's just the regular people that text us all the time and say, this was good, do this thing, do that. So yeah, any feedback is welcome. And then Carlos will give specific shout outs in the future, and your feedback might get read out. Yeah. Thanks, folks. Thank you. See you next week.